My name's Andrew Knafel, and I run Brook Farm. We grow organic vegetables on about 40 acres of cropland. We do probably 28 acres every year outside, and then we have about 6 greenhouses where we grow in ground. I'll talk about also what we do for our crop selection and crop timing. First off, most of the crops that we grow, we plant them as transplants into the greenhouse. Arugula is one of the crops that we direct seed, and so is some of the lettuce mix. So this is Salanova. We do this from transplants. We use the paper pot system for a lot of our crops. My new favorite crop is escarole. We planted it and we just love it. It's super sweet this time of year. It's great in salads, or you can use it in soups. It's really good. How we plan our seeding, we have every week of the year, we have analog seeding charts. This is our latest Salanova, and it was seeded on the 13th of September. Our first Salanova that we've harvested a while ago for our fall CSA, that was seeded on the 4th of September. So even though the date's only 9 days apart between seeding and the fall, those 9 days end up being like a month difference later in the fall. The Salanova, for example, that's for the greenhouse. So we seeded on September 4th, 1 seed, and it's in a paper pot. And it's the spacing on the paper pot's a 6-inch paper pot. And then we have the different varieties. Sometimes we are out of something, so we sub something else. Especially this time of year, we run out of certain varieties. And this is the number of the number of trays of each variety. And then we just check it when it's done. Spinach that we're seeding here was our last seeding on the 9th of September, and it was ready. We probably could have been harvesting this about December 5th. The seeding of spinach that we seeded on August 30th, which was 10 days earlier, that was probably ready November 5th. So it was a lot earlier that it was ready, even though it was only seeded 10 days earlier. There's different ways to control your greenhouse climate. A lot of people grow crops with remay that they take on and off throughout the winter, and they use hoops so that the remay is not touching the crop, and they don't use any heat. We used to do that for years, and for ease, we run our heaters at between like 28 and 30 degrees in our houses. In the winter. We have 5 or 6 houses growing with different stuff in there, and to pull that much remay on and off every day would be cumbersome, and it got very tiring. So in every house we have heaters, we have some sort of thermostat, and in this house we have a Bartlett controller. This whole thing was $2,000 for that controller, which is a great deal. But with the radio controller, it's got like a half-mile range. So everything speaks to one hub up by our internet connection. If you're going to heat, you want to have your sensor down near your crop level, especially in the winter. We have one greenhouse with an analog sensor. Somehow I wasn't paying attention, and it was up here, set at 28 or 30, and this was about a month ago. And the temperature got down to -8. And everything on the ground was frozen solid. And luckily, it kind of came back. So yeah, I keep 2 heaters in each house as an insurance policy, because this house needs 300,000 BTUs basically to be able to maintain temperature, especially during early spring when we're trying to heat it to like 65 if we're growing crops or bedding plants in here. So if one heater goes down, the other heater's still here as a backup. In the winter, just because you think you don't want to be venting because it's so cold, but actually, like in this house, we have a vent and a fan up high, because it's great to pull the humidity out on a sunny day. You want to be able to vent and not let it get too warm in here. So we'll set that at like 50. So it's hard to do roll-up sides in the winter because the snow sheds off the greenhouse, and as you can see on the edge, there's no way to roll those sides up. So you want to have some other way to vent your house other than just roll-ups if you're going to grow in there in the winter. Our soil health is an important part of what we're doing. We try and take soil tests in most of our greenhouses every year, and then we'll use the recommendations depending upon what crop we're planting, and a lot of what we add is like soybean meal, alfalfa meal for nitrogen, and sulfate of potash for potassium. Those are our two main nutrients that we have to pay the most attention to, is potash and nitrogen. If we don't do a soil test, we might just spread some Crayers pelleted chicken manure, and a house like this size is 2,000 square feet, so we might put in about 140 to 160 pounds of Crayers in here, till it in, and then plant. We do all of our irrigation with drip and not with overhead. I wonder about overhead in the winter, having a lot of moist, wet foliage. I could see is causing, a little bit harder to control disease. We grow organically. We try and have our customers know we basically have crops that are fairly bug-free. It's what we try and do. Sometimes we miss it, and if it's really horrible, I wouldn't sell it. There are some sprays, but mostly we use beneficials. And this time of year, our favorite aphid predator are lacewing larvae, but the 50,000 come in two small little canisters, like film canisters. So we like to be able to distribute it more evenly. We'll put it in the carrier, and then we'll just go through all our greenhouses, especially when we find the aphids, and spread it on those crops. And then the eggs hatch the little larvae, and they're very, very effective. But apparently we missed this crop of lettuce this year. The other crop that we have a consistent problem with every year in the fall is spinach, with spinach crown mites. And we can't really see the crown mites, but we see the damage. So as the leaves grow up, the baby leaves are growing up in the spinach, you'll see these little like scalloped edges, and that's a sign that there's spinach crown mite. And we'll spray a neem product, which is also an organic product. If we don't control, the spinach doesn't look very good. And this year was probably the hardest year we had trying to control the spinach crown mite. But next year, we're going to get some predatory mites from IPM Lab. We're going to release them early, before we plant spinach, maybe about a month early. And hopefully, I've heard good results people have been having with these mites. Find them, and it does supposedly knock them back. But if you have some basic growing knowledge, you can put stuff in the ground, and trial and error was probably our biggest teacher. And we went to a lot of workshops over the years. There's been so many helpful farmers. For us, one of the key things is really learning climate control, learning which crops can take colder temperatures and which can't. And also a key aspect of growing winter crops is to acclimate the crop to the colder temperatures slowly. And so to get there in the fall, you have to really monitor the greenhouse temperatures as the nights and everything starts to get colder. You want to let them get cold, but not too cold too quickly. But a lot of stuff also recovers after it's been frozen. So don't give up right away. Don't till it in for at least a few days after a scare like that. So